Good afternoon. My name is Peter Kinney, and I am the pastor of the Havens Chapel United Methodist Church in Powell, Tennessee. This afternoon, we're going to be sharing with you in our leadership strategy presentation with Pastor Bobby Black, who is also a pastor in the United Methodist Church in the Hosting Conference with me, and he pastors
Valley View United Methodist Church and High School United Methodist Church.
All right. So this afternoon, as I introduce my friend Pastor Black, he's going to tell us a little bit about himself and his role as a senior pastor. Or I'll just let him just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I've been in this area of Clinton, High School, Tennessee since July. As United Methodist pastor, I itinerate. I moved from a single church pastorate in Chattanooga to a two-point charge, a two-church charge, where I have two congregations, separate congregations, divided geographically. We actually bracket Havens Chapel. My churches are on either side of Havens Chapel, so I pass it twice a Sunday. I do two services each Sunday, preaching two full services each Sunday, and I'm learning a lot about how much you have to offer, how much the small church needs leadership that many times has been overlooked. That we are actually being poured out as a drink offering. So I am excited about Pastor Kinney's educational work and his work about gaining in knowledge as well as grace and leadership.
Amen. Amen. Well, let me ask you this, Pastor Black. As far as your educational background,
Right.
What is your credentials in your education?
Actually, I attended Howard University on an academic scholarship starting in 1966. I completed 3 years. My mother passed. It was just three of us in the family, my sister, my mother, and myself. I came back, interrupted my education. My mother was the first to graduate from high school. I was the first to attend college. By the grace of God, my sister was the first to graduate from college, and that became the new norm for the family. Later, before I entered the ministry, seeking God's will for my life, I did attend Emmanuel Seminary in Johnson City, Tennessee for a year, just seeking his plan for me, because the pastor at the church I was attending, when I told him I was called to minister, he wanted me to specify I was called to preach, and I just didn't feel I could do that. So he wouldn't teach me. I had no father in the ministry. Another pastor got me into the graduate seminary when I hadn't completed undergraduate. And that began my journey. And then after meeting Bishop Swanson of the United Methodist Church, I was brought into the United Methodist Church and became licensed in the United Methodist Church. During the process my time in the United Methodist Church, I have completed 5 years of course of study. I have attained my associate membership in the conference, and really my education has been pastoring and pastoral care in now 5 different churches in 11 years.
Okay. We've been studying in our class Introduction to Christian Leadership for this semester term, and the first question that we had when we opened the term was, what is a Christian leader or a servant Christian leader? And we're studying from a book that's been assigned to our class called Being Leaders by Avery Malpars, and he shares that first, a Christian leader is a committed follower of Jesus Christ, and that Christians can lead, or leaders that lead, they lead both in ministry, and they can also lead in the secular world on their jobs. with reference to just being a leader
Mm-hmm.
and then being a servant leader, what do you feel, or what is your philosophy of a leader and what a servant leader is?
Well, being a leader, first, my definition of leadership is the ability to translate and elicit following from your guidance, direction, and charisma. That's a gift. Many times that's a gift, and I learned about leadership from being a parent.
Okay.
I truly learned about leadership from being a parent, and then being a business owner. I learned other other lessons, because if you weren't successful at leading, then you paid the price economically. But my personal philosophy of leadership is that we have a natural circle of influence that will listen and watch and even copy or emulate what they see of us. We have an obligation to be aware and responsible in our actions and words, to present the most helpful and the least harmful evidences of who we are and what we believe, in order to be a positive influence rather than a negative one. Our experiences that we have survived and learned from are our witness to help others not to repeat our mistakes, as well as to take advantage of our education through our experiential education.
Well, let me ask you this: what concerns to being a servant leader or a Christian leader? We've got another book that we're studying from. It's called Ldrship and Challenge, and it's written by James Kroons and Barry Posner. And they share that there are 5 different categories or practices that Christian leaders should implement, or should actually characterize their walk and their lifestyle. And those 5 things are being an exemplary leader or being a credible leader. You hit on one briefly about being able to influence others. Then, they also have a strong belief system. If just for a moment, if you could share with us some of your past experiences of being a Christian leader, or being, serving in ministry at some of the churches that you've pastored, how will some of these characteristics, how do they come into play as you were serving?
Well, I had to learn humility, because my desire when I felt called to minister was to help my people, because I saw black people in particular as being just vilified and abused and minimized in societies all over the world. And having come from a background of being the least and the last, as I saw that I was being empowered to be more, blessed through the grace of God to be more acceptable and to be able to rise through the levels of society, I was wanting to be able to take my experiences back to my people. And my first appointment was to 2 white churches with no black members. Wow. And my first sermon, I spoke of how the Israelites were freed from bondage in Babylon, not by the Babylonians, but by the Persians, who freed them without price. And that God could use anybody to help his people. He could use anybody to help his people. And my eyes were opened when I looked out on that first totally white congregation who were looking up at me, and I realized all people are his people. That no matter what anxiety I might have about being put into that situation, they had an anxiety too about accepting a black leader in a town with 3% black, and that we had really no presence. But all of a sudden, they had a black spiritual leader. And I realized that I had to develop a sensitivity to those folks, a compassion for those folks, so that they would see why I was there, what I brought to them. So that was my first sermon. Said if God could use an idolater to bless his people, then why not me to bless you? Because I understood that all people are his people. And that blessed them in such a way that the barriers dropped almost immediately, because they were able to drop some barriers in their minds. There were some racial barriers that they saw that I was coming to help them.
Okay. So in your opinion, you're saying that Christian leaders, they don't really distinguish themselves from others because we all belong to the same God.
We have to see our similarities, being children of God. I had some rough patches, and in my rough patches that I thought maybe they made a mistake about putting me in different places, not just white places, but in Chattanooga I've had some rough patches, and each time I'd go to an admired leader, and I'd talk to them about my situation so that they would be on my side. 3 times the same response came, and these people didn't know each other. The same response: preach the word and love the people.
So preaching the word and loving the people.
Yes.
You know, I've had a short tenure here so far at Havens Chapel. I'm in my 9th month, and I've talked to several other pastors that have served in ministry 20, 25, 30 years. And those were the same 2 things that they shared with me is, son, go in there, stay in the text, and love the people.
Love the people. Yes.
Just stay in the text and love the people.
If people are easy to love, anybody can do that.
Yeah, we sing a song. It's the Jesus in me. It's the Jesus in you that makes it easy to love everybody. Let me ask you this: how would you characterize your